Similar to Munich's architectural distinction between the pre- and post-World War, Paris has a unique style that blends buildings from the Napoleonic era all the way to the present day. The famous Eiffel Tower was constructed in 1889 and soon became the symbol of the city. When we think of Paris, the Eiffel Tower tends to be the first thing we think about. It's pretty ironic, though, because it's actually relatively new in comparison to the other Parisian buildings. It's hard to imagine Paris without the Eiffel Tower, but this was the case for many years. The French people were distraught about this massive building that overtook the city. It completely destroyed the aesthetic of the architectural style of Paris and was easily the tallest building in the city. The Louvre also combines old and new through the addition of the famous pyramid. In 1983, Parisians were appalled when their old historic palace became home to a modern piece of glass art. The glass and metal completely contradicted the surrounding buildings. Over time, the pyramid gained respect from the Parisians, and they grew to love the new symbol of the Louvre. Even though both of these structures caused an uproar among the French people, it helped to establish the Parisian architecture of combining the old with the new. Both the cities of Paris and Munich are able to influence their architecture on their history and old age. However, neither are intimidated by adding modern touches to different parts of the city. They each take more current events, such as the World Fair or World War II, to add to their city's style.
Paris is filled with many iconic buildings that are known to be landmarks of the city. But besides these widely recognized structures, the architecture of Paris in general has been developing into what it is today for centuries, and can be classified through the four architectural periods: Roman, medieval, Renaissance, and classical. Throughout the medieval period, Paris became disorganized and claustrophobic. With no layout plan for the city, buildings were placed wherever there was available space, making the streets narrow and chaotic.
And because of this, there is barely any parking around the city because the streets are so small and there are no parking lots in front of storefronts. This is very different from the parking lots and accessibility of street parking or parking garages that we have in most American cities. Due to this lack of parking and the excessive amount of traffic that comes with Paris being an extremely populated city, Parisian consumers have always typically either walked to the store or taken a cab across town if it is too far to walk. This led to more specialized brick-and-mortar stores inside Paris because brick-and-mortar stores in France can't have everything a consumer needs, which is what retailers such as Walmart or Target promises American consumers. Essentially, brick-and-mortar stores in Paris can't be a one-stop shop for consumers because there is no room for that much inventory in their small storefronts. And since there is no parking, consumers typically do not do giant shopping trips where they load up an entire car or fill up multiple grocery bags full of items. And most of the time, the items that the Parisian consumers buy on a daily basis can all fit in one single bag. This has also led to the success of the online retailer Amazon within France, since Amazon has essentially everything a consumer could want and it gets delivered right to their door. Amazon has a competitive advantage over these smaller stores in their supply chain and the resources that allow Amazon to fulfill any need a customer has. But Amazon also faces some unique challenges in France and Germany as well. One problem it faces is similar to when Walmart was accused of predatory pricing and running local businesses to the ground in small-town America. Amazon faces a similar issue in France and is receiving backlash because people are afraid it will force local businesses to shut down and it will damage the French economy as a whole. Parisian architecture is also an issue for Amazon and other businesses like it because it is difficult for them to have warehouse areas within the city limits because there is limited space. So they receive backlash for polluting the air with their trucks that they must use to transport their goods far distances from their warehouse areas to the city limits. Even though Amazon leads the e-commerce industry in Europe, specialized French and German small businesses have an advantage over Amazon in that they give European customers a more personal experience. This is why companies like Zoo Plus that we visited like to approach customers with a more hands-on approach to differentiate themselves from Amazon.
By the end of the 19th century, the style that was commissioned by Napoleon III and now dominates the style of Parisian public buildings is known as the Haussmann Plan. This plan was based on modifying the streets of Paris by creating long, tree-lined boulevards filled with many shops and cafes.
These boulevards, such as Champs-Élysées, Give business owners the perfect place to set up their business in an area that is guaranteed a high consumer traffic rate from both local and foreign tourist consumers.
The architecture of Germany is a product of the journey of its own cultural heritage along with influences from other European countries. Together, this has worked to make Germany's architecture one of the most beautiful and unique of any country in the world. The country has gone through phases of style such as Carolingian, Romanesque, Gothic, Renaissance, Baroque, Classical, Modern, and International. Through these phases and centuries of fragmentation throughout Germany, it originally led to great regional diversity throughout the country. But with the devastation of World War II hitting Germany hard, many larger cities had to be rebuilt, all adopting the simple modernist architectural model. This has worked to create a more unified appearance throughout the country. A key characteristic of German engineering is rationality and precision. Germany's architecture turned to find ways to create practical buildings for cities to thrive, socially and economically. Germany believes cities are worth living in, and to make it this way, it has a focus of the country to create appealing architecture that is both inviting and invigorating to its inhabitants and its visitors. The idea is that creating these efficient yet beautiful pieces of architecture, it will create a more lively and livable setting to which its inhabitants will thrive, ultimately creating a positive ripple effect throughout businesses and the overall economy. So far, this ideal has worked wonders for Germany. It can be stated that there is a direct correlation between a country's economic success and the appearance of the city's buildings. Germany spends roughly 300 billion euros each year on new buildings and refurbishment projects. This is a direct example of the degree of importance to which Germany views its architecture having on its economy and its livability to an even higher degree than France.
German businesses are known for dominating much of the European markets, and many of Germany's businesses today take place online instead of solely brick and mortar stores. E-commerce has risen in the past years in Germany by 38 million euros since 2013. Germany has very modern tech businesses that operate online and dominate the e-commerce industry and compete with Amazon directly. These companies are the Otto Group and Zalando. Zalando is based in Berlin and the Otto Group is based in Hamburg, Germany. Together, these three tech giants capture 44% of the e-commerce market within Europe. Although Germany and France are two very different European countries, they are similar in that the architecture from when the city started all the way until modern times has influenced the way these countries do business today.